Our top story, the Ford government is expanding strong mayor powers to 26 more municipalities. The legislation will give mayors veto powers over bylaws that conflict with provincial priorities. The province says the move is meant to give mayors the tools to help achieve the province's goal of building 1.5 million homes by the year 2031. Housing Minister Steve Clark says the expansion will take place on Canada Day. This is a map now of the GTHA municipalities included in that update. Among them are most cities stretching from Hamilton to Oshawa and Clarington region, as well as Brampton, Vaughan, and Richmond Hill. And of course, as we just said, Brampton is among the cities that now have strong mayor powers. Joining us now live for more on this is Brampton's Mayor Patrick Brown. Good to see you, Mayor.
Beatrice, a pleasure to speak to you about this new development.
So let's talk about it. What do you make of it? I mean, you put out a statement saying you support it, you appreciate the fact that the Premier has municipal experience, and you think it will actually help you move forward with your agenda.
Yeah, I think this is very helpful. The Premier has a lived experience being at the municipal level, and I think that's been helpful. He's seen where the legislative framework is broken. Frankly, Ontario is one of the only jurisdictions where the mayor is only one vote around the table. It's difficult to implement your agenda when you have the same voting power as someone who's been elected by maybe 5% of the votes that you were elected by. So you look at the UK, Germany, the US, there's a proper legislative system to allow mayors to implement their agenda. So I think this is going to be helpful. It'll allow us to be more accountable, frankly. Right now, if a mayor makes a promise and he can't deliver on it, he can say, it's council, or it got passed in the budget. Now I think it takes more ownership. It creates more ownership and responsibility for any commitment that is made.
But with that same breath, Mayor, isn't it part of your job as mayor to build consensus among your councillors and to try to get that agenda passed?
Yeah, I think that's naturally going to happen, but why should Ontario be the jurisdiction where you give the mayor the least tools to implement their agenda? And I can give you two examples where I can see this would have been helpful. In the last term of council, I wanted to expand cricket. But I don't appoint the committee chair, and at the time the chair is appointed didn't support my agenda to diversify recreation. It's different this term because I've got a great city council in Brampton, but that wouldn't have happened under these powers. Under the new powers, I would appoint the committee chairs, and so it would be consistent with the agenda that I got elected on to expand recreation. Or another example I can think of, with these new mayor powers, the mayor prepares the budget. I can think a few years ago when there was a councillor that wanted to give $1 million to his wife's barn. I thought it was a conflict. I thought it was wrong. It was on the front pages of the newspapers. And under the new powers, I could have prevented that. Under the old powers, that was something that I had to answer. Residents would call me complaining, how could you support this, even though I never did support it? And so, I can see how this legislation is going to be helpful to, frankly, being accountable in your own city.
It sounds like, Mayor, these powers are something you would use if you needed to. Can you talk about how it would help the city of Brampton build more housing to go with the province's goal of building, more than 1 million homes by 2031?
Mm-hmm. Well, I should say the council that I have right now in Brampton is very aligned. And so it may not be necessary with this council to utilize those powers. But where I say it could hypothetically be useful is, say there's a development that is in the best interest of the city, but is unpopular in a specific area. Then as mayor, my responsibility would say this may be unpopular in a small segment of the city, but for the overall good of the city, we need to proceed with this new road or this new or density along a transit corridor. No one ever wants a vacant field to be developed. No one ever wants anything to change. And so sometimes I think there is a greater responsibility to the city to do what's in the best interest of the city.
Brampton's Mayor Patrick Brown, thanks so much for your time and enjoy your weekend. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.